What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the show, man. Recap with Mo, where we're getting ready to get into another one. But before we get into this thing, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss shit that's going down, alright? So the show we're getting ready to get into is another one from Tyler Perry titled Divorced Sisters. So we're going to get into season 1, episode number 1, titled The Pretty Lady. Now, we kick this episode off with Tiffany and Geneva, who are waiting in the car line at Geneva's daughter's school. Now, as they're waiting, we find out quite a bit of information, pertaining to their friendship of 20 plus years and their sister circle, which includes Rashida, who's the first lady of a church, aka the praying woman. Then there's Naomi, who Tiffany obviously has some strong feelings about. And then last but not least, there's Bridgette. And we'll talk about all of these sisters, momentarily throughout this recap. So Geneva and her husband William are going on a vacation. They're going out of the country and they're leaving their daughter Anika with Tiffany for the week or whatnot. Now, Geneva honestly feels as if the only reason why Tiffany volunteered or agreed to watch Anika was to avoid dealing with her current state of reality, which she's coming out of a divorce. Well, not, should I even say coming out of a divorce, because realistically it's dead, it's done, it's over. You know what I'm saying? It's been over for a long time, and that is what Geneva is talking about, because the reality is not setting in for her for whatever reason. So she goes on to tell, Geneva that she's good. It's only been 3 months, but, Geneva's like, no, you're not going to play in my face today. It's actually been more like 3 long, dry, desperate years. And I'm like, daggone, don't put it. And even Tiffany's like, okay, you don't have to say no more. I got it. I understand it. I get it. Right? Now, Geneva wants the best for Tiffany, and you could tell that from their relationship, the way that they talk to one another. They got each other's back. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate that aspect of it. Also, she wants to lift her up. Even in her downtime, she's telling her, like, it wasn't as bad as it could have been, right? It wasn't as bad as, say, Naomi, who we'll get into in just a moment. And they both laugh about it or whatnot, because Naomi is a whole different beast, and we're going to get into her for a moment. So anyhow, from there we see the teacher, Miss Rose, bringing out Geneva's daughter to get in the car or whatnot. And then she looks in the window and she tells Geneva that she's surprised to see her instead of the nanny or her husband, right? Because we love to see both parents engaged. Emphasis on both parents engaged. And Geneva is sitting over here like, is this chick for real? Are you going to do this in front of my friend? Yes, she is. So you need to get yourself in order. That's what she's telling you. And initially I said, Miss Rose is fine. Could she be messing around with somebody's husband? I hope not, but we are talking about divorced sisters, so you never know in the Tyler Perry span, man. You never know how this thing is going to pan out. So anyhow, Geneva is feeling some type of way, which I get, but if you're not showing up, you can't really get mad at the people calling you out for not showing up. It is what it is. Look, y'all had me stuttering for a moment. It is what it is, Geneva. Move on. Anyhow, from there, now we head over to the church house, where we are being introduced to the good Pastor Jeff and Rashida. Right now, it's interesting because you could tell off the rip that the tension is thick. You could slice it with a butter knife. It's thick, right? Now, they're in this meeting. They're trying to confirm the guest list for the banquet that they're holding later on that evening. And Pastor Jeff tells them to save one more seat for one more special person. So now Rashida, his wife, is like, okay, well, who are we holding the seat for? He doesn't really want to answer the question definitely in front of all of these people. He says, look, I want all the people with deep pockets around me. I want them in the house tonight. All right. And she was like, okay, cool. You don't want to answer? As long as it's not Franklin. Why not? Why we can't have Franklin? Why Franklin can't come to the party, right? That's my boy. Why he can't come? If I wanted to invite him, why he couldn't come? Now she tells him that that Naomi is going to be there. He's like, okay, cool. She needs to grow the heck up. Listen, it is what it is. Like I told y'all, the tension is thick in the room, and you can tell that there's some underlying things that's going on we haven't touched on just yet. Because as I always like to say, if we're patient enough and weigh it out, eventually it will show itself. It will show us what we need to know. And we see at the beginning of this, between these two individuals, that there's tension. What is it? Why is it there? All of these questions are, they flying around right now. But obviously the main thing is, First Lady Rashida, she wants to let it be known that she's not appreciating the level of disrespect that she's receiving from Pastor Jeff, her husband, right? And he's telling her, like, look, babe, I got to get to, this council meeting and whatnot. I didn't mean to do all of this stuff. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm not going to say that it was not sincere, but at the same time, bro, it wasn't sincere, bro. We just got to call it a buck, man. It is what it is what it is. Look, I'm going to just tell you what you need to hear so we can move forward, right? And of course, she says, okay, I hear you, because she understands the business, you know what I'm saying, at hand, what needs to be done and whatnot. So anyhow, going on from there, we see Tiffany and Geneva pulling into a driveway, and then there's another car already in the driveway with an individual standing outside of the car. So now we're being introduced to Naomi, who, we can already tell initially from the get-go, the way her body language is, that she's a little feisty, right? She's a little feisty, right? And that can be sexy at the same time. Let me just say that. But anyhow, moving on from there. So, Tiffany seeing her standing outside of the car, she's like speaking of the devil. And Geneva's like, don't let her hear you say that now. And they're both laughing as they're both getting out of the car, right? So as they approach Naomi, Geneva tells her that she wasn't expecting her for the day. So Naomi is in her feelings, and she was like, okay, so you with the shiznit, right? You with that thing, right? So as all of that is going down, Geneva finally calls for her nanny, I think her name is Susan, to come over and get little Anika or whatnot, so they can finally have, woman-to-woman types of conversation, right? So Naomi has hired Geneva to be her attorney to represent her against her husband. The only problem is Geneva is actually on her ex-husband's side with this whole situation, because what's her name? Naomi wants to know, has she had the opportunity to look over the lawsuit or whatnot. Now, Geneva conveys to her that, yeah, we've looked at it, but the judge as well as his attorneys agree that you're sort of harassing him, and we sort of all agree. So now Naomi is pissed because she feels as if, her homegirls, the judge, the attorneys are taking the side of her ex-husband who left her for a 25-year-old Caucasian woman. I'm gonna just say it like that, right? Now she, of course, she got her own way of saying it, but that's what it is. So she's mad about that, and she's like, look, you know what? You ain't taking care of business. I'm going to give me a new attorney. Now, Tiffany is telling Geneva, like, girl, she ain't going nowhere. She done fired everybody in town. I was like, daggone, like, for real, everybody? Everybody in town? Absolutely. So she ain't going nowhere. She got you. She coming back. Don't worry about it. So anyhow, she drives off, man. Now, I ain't gonna lie, that's a bad ride. Like a classic, right? Now, as I told you before, she's feisty. That's sexy. But it can also be dangerous. And obviously, that's what everybody's in fear of if she comes to this banquet tonight, right? Because if you use that gift that she has in the right way, boy, but if you mess it up, it could be a bad situation. So anyhow, moving on from there, man. So we now head back over to the church house where we see loose lip Bridgette. Yes, I'm going to call her that. Geneva called her loose, and then she called her lipped. So that's what we're going to call her, right? So loose lip Bridgette is on the phone with Tiffany and Geneva, and they are attempting to, find out where in the world is Rashida, right? So obviously she's at work. That's what she conveys to them. But before she takes the phone to Rashida to see if she wants to talk to them, she has to share a little bit of information. But first she needs to find out where in the world is Naomi at, right? I know that's incorrect, but it is what it is. It fits so well. Where in the world is Naomi at, right? Now, once all of that is confirmed that she's not there, Bridgette goes on to tell them that she believed that Pastor Jeff may be inviting Franklin to the banquet. And they both like, I hope to heck not, right? And I don't know what it is. Do they think they're going to shut it down, or do they think one part of this party is going to shut it down? I'm not sure. Obviously, it's bad blood, but it's really, really bad for them. Like, nobody wants neither one of them to come to the party. Now, I know Pastor Jeff wants old boy to come because he got deep pockets, but he ain't really said nothing about old girl because she got half of what he got. So, I mean, she got deep pockets too. He said he wanted everybody with deep pockets to be at this event. So why not sit in between them, and then you go ahead and give what you need for your fundraiser, bro. Do what you need to do. Bring God into the midst. You see what I'm saying? So anyhow, going on from there. So Bridgette goes ahead and takes the phone over to Rashida's office to inform her that both Tiffany and Geneva are on the phone. Now she tells her that she needs a minute or whatnot. Now Tiffany and Geneva are attempting to figure out what's going on. What's going on over there? Like, Bridgette is like, I don't know, but something ain't right. Something ain't right. That's all I'm gonna tell y'all. Y'all need to talk to her. Now, obviously, loose lip Bridgette ain't being too loose about the information. For whatever reason, she ain't letting it go. But she knows deep down in her heart that something ain't right because she's sitting there looking at it. And it's not looking good, by the way. You see what I'm saying? And all while all of this is going down, Rashida is in her office attempting to get through this by herself, trying to get herself together, letting tears go, wiping them back up. And here comes Bridgette, unannounced. Old girl, Rashida is like, look, I didn't tell you to come in here. I'm trying to get myself together. I don't need you seeing me like this. Now, loose lip, she want to know what's going on. I mean, you don't have to tell me right now, but eventually we're going to have to figure it out. I know you ain't good. I can see it all in it. It's written all over your face. You see what I'm saying? It's all over your face. You ain't got to say a word. You see? That's that jail. Anyhow, it's written all over her face, man. Go ahead and come on out with it. I won't share your information. You know me. You've been knowing me for 20 plus years. I ain't gonna say a word, right? So anyhow, she's asking loose lip, did she tell the girl something? She was like, no. And Rashida should have known then that she was lying, because you've known this woman for 20 plus years. Like, and honestly, she did come out and eventually tell her, look, I did say something wasn't right, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I didn't tell them everything. I didn't tell them what y'all were talking about at the meeting. But I did tell them that something was actually going on. I just couldn't put my finger on it. Is that okay? No, she didn't say that. I'm lying. She didn't say that. But she did say, you know what I'm saying? She did tell them that something just wasn't right. And we needed to talk it out. But most importantly, we need to figure out if this confirmation for Franklin is coming through, and if that's so, then we need to figure out how to keep Naomi's tail end up out of this banquet. Because if she sees Franklin with that little young white girl coming off in this banquet, there's going to be a situation, all right? And if we're trying to raise this money up, we do not need those two situations meeting up and ending this whole thing. So, go ahead and call the girls back. Let's talk it out, figure out what we need to do. So they finally called the sisters back, Tiffany and Geneva. And of course, they talk it out. They're trying to discuss what are their next steps, because they all agree that Naomi needs to either not show up, or if he shows up, then she needs not to show up. Either way, you know what? As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and make an executive decision. Neither one of y'all's tails needs to be there. Just go ahead and mail in a money order. We'll take that. We'll gladly accept that. Send you a thank you card in the mail, or we'll even give you a personal phone call. Whichever way you like it. All right. We just want to raise this money, right, for the church. All right. So we need y'all to just step back, give me 50 feet, do what y'all need to do. But either way would work. I mean, for everybody in the room, do you agree? You on the other end of the call, you agree? All right, then we can go ahead and end this thing. Meeting adjourned. So that's what they do. They get off the phone. Everybody's under one accord. We need to stop Naomi from showing up, or Franklin from showing up. It is what it is, right? So anyhow, going on from there, we see Loose Lips and Rashida in her office. Now, Loose Lips tells, Rashida that, hey, after, I get your dress and everything situated, I got a few appointments that I got to get through, to get myself together for tonight's event or whatnot. Now, Rashida conveys to her that, hey, you good. I really don't need you for the rest of the evening or whatnot. I only got one counseling session left, so I should be straight. Now, Bridgette is like, cool, well, I'll holler at you later, but I'm going to go ahead and give you a heads up, though. The person you got coming later, I don't know what to expect, but they did call the office about 10 times trying to sit down with you, so I just need you to get yourself mentally prepared for all of this. And I'm like, in my heart, please don't let this be any more daggone drama, but it wouldn't be Tyler Perry without it. Daggone it, oh my gosh, woosah, woosah, woosah. Anyhow, moving on from there, man. So from there, we head back over to the crib where we see Tiffany and Geneva, and we see Geneva's daughter playing with her dolls. And as she's playing with her dolls, she begins to say things that, let's just say, a child shouldn't be saying, right? So, of course, Tiffany and Geneva are like, hold on, wait a minute, did she just say what I thought she said? And I'm like, yeah, she said what you, I heard the same thing, right? So Geneva leans over towards her daughter, Anika, and is like, baby girl, that ain't appropriate for a 5-year-old to be saying. And then her daughter says that her dad says it to the pretty lady at the school. And I said, hold on, say that again. And she says, but daddy says it to the pretty lady at the school. And I said, oh Lord. I said, what pretty lady? Please don't let it be Miss Rose. Please don't let it be Miss Rose, right? So now Geneva is on one. She was like, hold on, wait a minute. What pretty lady are we talking about? Now, Tiffany, on the other hand, is like, okay, I see what you're doing with this baby right here. The baby ain't ready for what you're putting down. So just chill out a little bit. Calm down. Let's figure this out. So Geneva looks at Tiffany and she was like, okay, I'm cool. So she leans back over towards Anika and she was like, okay, baby girl, what lady are you talking about? Anika goes on to convey to her that it's her friend's mom, Maddie. Geneva is like, okay, what is Maddie's mom's name? I don't know. Well, what do you know? I don't know. Well, how you gonna tell me about this? I don't know. I was like, oh, that's a whole lot of I don't knows for someone that just got the bomb dropped on them. Right? So of course Geneva is like, no, this ain't enough. I need to know what's going on. So while all of this is going on, here comes Susan once again to save the day. And she was like, hold on, give me a moment, Susan. Tiffany is like, no, let that baby go. Cause I see what you got going on. I see that eye twitching on the left right there. No, you doing a little bit too much. I need you to calm down. And she was like, no, I'm good. You ain't good. You're not good. Because at the beginning of this episode, and I didn't talk about it earlier, but when Tiffany asked her how she and her husband were doing, she hesitated for a moment, talking about this trip was well needed and all of that good stuff. But at the same time, when Tiffany asked her that question, she paused and she said, we're good. Tiffany clocked it, right? She saw what it was and she was like, okay, are you sure? She was like, yeah, like just because you and your ex had all of this stuff going on don't mean we got this going on, and obviously you do. Oh man. So anyhow, Tiffany's like, look, we good, you good, we'll figure it out. Not William. William ain't that tight. Now, Geneva's like, well, that's the same issue said about John. And she was like, well, John already had it in him, but not William. William ain't that tight. And I was like, yeah, William ain't that tight. I know my boy. He ain't gonna do that. He just slipped up and said somebody was fine. Maybe it was a fine day. You see what I'm saying? He wasn't calling her fine. Well, the way the daughter said it was like, you so daggone fine. Well, it could have been a daggone fine day. Let me get up out of this, man. So anyhow, that's what it was. That's what I'm looking at it as. But, Tiffany tells her, look, I got to get gone. I got to get over here and get these nails done and whatnot so we can get together tonight so we can be fine together. Probably too early. Can't say fine. Well, I'm going to look good tonight. But before she leaves, Geneva made sure to let her know not to tell nobody about what she just heard because she needs to figure this out for herself, right? And, she says, I promise. But Geneva, knowing her friend, is like, yeah, I hear you, but I need to make sure that this is for certain that you tell nobody, absolutely nobody. And she was like, girl, I got you. But when somebody got to do you like that, they know you loose with your lips. And you going to tell him, girl, please, just promise, please. Yeah, I got you, girl. As soon as she get outside, she already on the floor. Girl, don't tell nobody. Don't tell nobody. Anyhow, moving on from there, man. So from there, we head back over to Naomi's crib where we see a young guy knocking on the door or whatnot. Now, Naomi opens the door and it just so happens to be Bolo from All the Queen's Men. Well, it is, but it isn't, because in this series, he introduced himself as High King. So I was like, okay, I like how this whole thing is going down, this whole TP universe type of situation. I like it, right? So anyhow, getting back to the story at hand. So as I stated, Naomi invited him in. So as he's walking through, he's admiring all the stuff in the house. And it's like, dang, is this you? And she was like, yeah, this is me. Why you keep asking all of these questions? And he was like, no, I just like to get to know the people before we get down with the get down. She was like, look, I don't need you doing all of that. All I need you to do is focus on what you came here for. So he continues to look around the house and he's like, man, I can't believe this right here. Like, this is a beautiful place. And she was like, look, are you into interior decorating? Because you keep looking at all my drapes around the house, but I need you to focus on my drapes. I said, show you right. So he's like, no, I ain't like that. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And, are you married? Like, I need to make sure that I'm good. I don't need to be running out of no windows and nothing like that. I need to make sure I'm good. And she's like, look, I'm divorced. You don't have nothing to worry about. This man goes on to say, dang, old boy set you up good. She was like, what? Are you saying a woman can't have all of this by herself? And he was like, no. Look, man, he said it with his whole chest, right? So, of course, she was like, man, get up out of my house. And she didn't say those words either. Get up out of my house, bro. He was like, look, I ain't going nowhere. Now, the thing for me is, I don't know if this was part of the fantasy of it all. And the reason why I say that is because when he came in aggressively like that, did that turn her on as well as him? Like, was that part of the package that she paid for? Like, I'm not sure. But obviously, bruh, it worked. You know what I'm saying? She was touching, he was touching, she was feeling, he was feeling. And she was obviously feeling what she wanted. And she was like, okay, you good, but you're not going to get paid until I get my satisfaction. And he was like, as a matter of fact, if I'm not satisfied, you're going to have to pay me double. And I was like, dang, gone. And she was like, quit all that talking about drapes and stuff. It's time for lunch. And I was like, I don't see no food on this table. Where the food at? Man, let me get up out of here, man. Let me move on, man. Y'all gonna get me in trouble. So anyhow, I guess they enjoyed themselves. So anyhow, since we talking about people and some problems, man. So we head back over to Geneva. And Geneva obviously isn't handling this situation well at all. Like, even though she told Tiffany or her girlfriend that she was going to be easy with it, she was going to be good, she's not. She lied, right? So now she's trying to figure it out herself and investigate, step by step what's going on to figure it out for herself, what she needs to do. So let me go ahead and start with Susan. Susan is the nanny. Remember in the beginning, it was either the nanny or the daddy that was dropping off the daughter. So let's go ahead and start with Susan. Susan comes in. Susan, do you know anything about this mysterious woman? Maddie's mom. Maddie? And Susan is standing there like, no, I don't know nothing about her. So that's another one that's not able to give her any information, right? So the only thing she's left to do at this moment in time is to contact the daggone school instead of talking to her husband that could assist her with all of this, right? But of course she can't let him know that he's, being found out or whatnot. So let me go ahead and contact the school. The only issue is she speaks to Miss Rose. Remember Miss Rose, the one from the beginning who was at the car line, who told her that it was a surprise to see her in the car line because she's never there? That woman, right? So Miss Rose picks up the phone and she was like, "How you doing, Miss Washington? How may I help you?" So Geneva's like, "Look, I'm trying to get together with the kids and their parents and all of this good stuff, and I was hoping, just hoping, sister to sister, that, you could give me the contact to, the parents, like Maddie's mom, specifically, right?" And, Miss Rose is like, "Oh, that sounds so awesome, right? But no. I just can't give you that information. That's against our policies and our procedures, right? You do appreciate that, don't you?" She was like, "Yeah, but I understand." But well, if you understand, it's nothing else to be said. But what you can do, let me go ahead and give this to you. Tomorrow night, we have a PTA. Something you haven't showed up to yet. The dad has been there, the nanny possibly, but not you. So this would be a great time for you to show up and, meet and greet with these parents that you say you need to connect with. And maybe you can exchange numbers then, and you can hold that whole little party or whatnot. They get together. Geneva don't like that though, because now you're forcing her to do something that she already didn't want to do. But since we're talking about something she really didn't want to do, but she ended up doing anyhow because she wanted to do it, she shows up at the school building later on that day, after school hours, right? There's a janitor there. She goes to the school building, knocks on the door. He comes to the door. She tells him this little sob story talking about her daughter left her teddy bear and she just can't sleep throughout the night. She's been crying the whole time about it, and she needs to just come in and get that bear so her daughter could sleep throughout the night. So he tells her initially that, "Hey, I'm not supposed to allow anybody to come in after hours or whatnot. I can get in trouble for that. It's against school rules or whatnot." So she goes on and butters him up a little bit more, and he's sitting there like, "Well, you know what? It's not that bad. Let me go ahead and let you in or whatnot. You know which classroom it is and all of this good stuff." So she eventually ends up in the room, right? Now, why isn't she looking for the teddy bear? Because that's not what she's there for. She's looking around the room. She eventually finds her daughter's picture up on the wall and tells him that this is her daughter. It was like, "Oh, she's so sweet." I was like, "Oh, she got him." She got him, boy. So he's telling her that, "Oh, she's such a doll. She's so sweet," and all of this stuff. And then she finds Maddie's picture. And obviously the rules don't apply to the janitor, because when he sees Maddie's picture and she starts asking about the parents, old boy lets it loose. We need to call him Loose Lips as well. Ain't nobody holding no information except for Miss Rose, right? So he goes on to tell what the father does for a living. He's into sales, and the mother, he really doesn't know what she does at this moment in time, but she's always wearing yoga pants. And I'm sitting here like, them daggone yoga pants are the devil, right? That's all I could think about in my mind, because that's the only thing he could remember about that woman was her daggone jogging pants. Ain't that a daggone shame, bro? So eventually, after he done spilled all the beans, and she was like, "Oh, really? But you don't know where she works?" He was like, "No, I just can't remember. I'm an old man and all of that stuff." And eventually, before she's getting ready to leave and has decided that she no longer needs the teddy bear, for whatever reason, now all of a sudden old boy can recall where old girl works. He states that she owns a gym. It's named Yoga Spelled Backwards. I said, "Oh, that's tight." But the sad part about it is, why you telling? Why you snitching? Ain't that policy that Miss Rose was talking about? Ain't that your same policy? You already wasn't supposed to be allowing people to come in after hours, but now you snitching. boy, you about to lose your job. I hope you don't lose your pension. Man, come on, boy. You can't, come on, man. You can't do that, man. There's a code. Anyhow, speaking of codes, man, so going on back to the church. So at the church house, we see, the First Lady Rashida, having a counseling session. And she's sitting down with this young lady, and this young lady is crying, and, Rashida's trying to figure out what's going on and try to walk her through what she's dealing with. And, oh, girl, it's like, well, I got something I really need to talk about, and it's just deep on my heart, and I just don't really know how to say it. And Rashida's sitting there like, it's all right, baby. We can pray about it, and we can walk through this thing. We're going to be good. And old girl said, really? She was like, yeah, we're going to be good. It's going to be great. Just focus on me. We're going to walk through this thing, right? And old girl is sitting there like, okay, if you say so. And she was like, okay, just get it off your chest then, sweetie, what you got to say? And old girl looks at Rashida, and she says, you sure you're not going to be mad at me? She was like, well, I'm going to be mad at you for. Did you do something against me? And she says, yeah. And she said, well, what did you do to me? She said, I've been messing with your husband. Rashida's face turned. Oh, man, I couldn't even get it out. Let me start that over. That wasn't right. Rashida said, did you do something against me? She said, yeah. She said, what is it? She said, I've been sleeping with your husband. I hope that you forgive me. Is that better? Y'all know I'm a whole fool over here, man. And that's how the episode ended, man. And I'm sitting here like, dang. And to see her face change from a smile to a frown, I'm like, dang, Rashida. Daggone, Rashida. She been messing around with your husband, not past the jail. Daggone, man. But anyhow, that's the end of the episode. Thank you guys for watching or listening, however you did it. Thank you guys so very much. Make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss shit that's going down, man. I got so much I got to bring to y'all within the next couple of weeks because Sisters is coming back in the middle of July. And I think that I stopped on episode number 8. So you know what that means for Brother Mo? I got to get caught up to episode number 22 within that time frame. So I got to drop like 2-3 episodes at a time to get a brother caught up before the new show takes place. Divorce Sisters, I got to get us caught up on that. What else I got? She the People, I got to finish that. The Shy, that's another one. BMF, that's another one. And then I got a new one that's coming soon that my wife told me that I need to bring to this platform. It's a little bit different than what we typically do over here, but I think you guys gonna like it. I actually like the show myself. I ain't gonna tell you all about it. What I'm gonna do is drop some clues every so often. Within the next couple of days, it'll be available this upcoming weekend, after the 4th when everybody on a break. So hopefully y'all can sit down and watch some brother's show, right? So anyhow, with that being said, I'm gonna holler at y'all. Peace.